Hello, I'm Ralitsa Vassileva with the Solutions Journalism Hub for the South. I'm the co-director for teaching. I'm here to tell you about solutions journalism, which is an approach in which we look beyond the problem to see if somebody's doing something to solve it. The reason why solutions journalism is important is because of our overemphasis of negativity and problems in the news. If we're only covering the problems, are we really giving people a realistic view of their world? So our belief is that we need to cover both. Don't get me wrong, we need to cover the problems. But if we don't look for solutions, then we really aren't giving people an objective idea of their world. It's a world in which everything is going wrong and nothing is being done about it. So we have to restore that balance. And that is what I'm going to talk to you about today. So why is it important to do solutions journalism? Well, look at those statistics. 59%, almost 60% of the people think that we mislead people. We have agendas, we're manipulating them, and we're imposing that on them. You see the partisan trust. We see that more Biden supporters trust journalists than Trump supporters. So we have a problem here. Here's some more statistics. 38% of the people just outright avoid the news. They've just had it with us. And that is up from 27% in 2017. Only 42% worldwide trust the news. And the trust is the lowest, believe it or not, in the United States, just at 26%. So we've got a problem. And I will offer one solution. That is solutions journalism. There are no silver bullets, of course, but there has been some data that actually shows us that solutions journalism is liked by people. And what really excites me is that what they tell people is that they find those stories to be more transformative, engaging, and above all, more trustworthy. These were groups of people who were shown both a solution story on the same topic and a problem story. And this is what they told pollsters, that they trusted those stories more. And what I like about it is that it transcends politics, that young people have a high interest. And so we seem to be on to something. There's data that shows that solutions journalism works. However, I'm not just talking about puffery, happy news. I'm talking about serious, investigative, rigorous reporting about how people are responding to problems. And so let me explain to you what solutions journalism is, the rigor in it that I was talking about, and what it's not. So number one, it covers a response to a problem, and the whole focus of the story is actually how that response works, how it happened. It provides evidence of impact. It looks at the effectiveness, not just intentions. So if it's a pilot, something relatively new, it might not have a lot of data. The evidence may be incomplete. So you could offer qualitative as well as quantitative data to prove or to show the effectiveness of the solution. It produces insights that can help others respond in a similar way. And what I mean by this is basically if other people want to replicate this solution, I ask if I'm doing a solution story, so what do you want other people to know so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel? What was it that you wish you knew when you first started that you'd like to share with us? And finally, last but definitely not least, this goes again to rigor. You look at the limitations in addition to the evidence, to the benefits, any caveats of this response. And there are no silver bullets. Every response has some challenges, and that has to be part of a solution story. So that's a solution story. What is not a solution story is not hero worship of the people who are doing the good things. They are responding to problems. It's not about making them heroes. Like, for example, this article about the founder of Tom's Shoes, who's just done an incredible thing about donating every pair of shoes. For every pair of shoes that we buy, he is donating shoes to people who can't afford them. This article on the left is all about him. You see the first sentence. The idea was genius. Now, that is not a solution story. It's not hero worship where the first sentence is genius. There are always limitations. And also it's about the solution itself that has been created by people like him. And it is rigorous reporting, investigating and seeing and focusing on that response. And when you do that kind of a story, you uncover things that the founder may not know about. And sure enough, the story on the right side of your screen discovered that his solution was wonderful. It was really helping people, giving them shoes, but a major limitation was hurting other people in poor communities in Africa. It was putting small stores that were selling shoes, locally produced shoes, to feed their families out of business because people were getting free shoes, free Tom's shoes, and they weren't buying any more shoes from these little mom and pop stores. And so that was a huge limitation. So when Tom's Shoes founder found out about that, which was something he didn't know, which is the beauty of solutions journalism, what he did, he made things right. And he started investing in skill training for those people he was putting out of business so that they would have a skill that would help them create businesses that were more lasting and that they could make good money and a good living. So that is what solutions journalism does. It looks under the hood, it shows you the benefits, but it also shows you things like they are. It's not a theory. Like if Brookins says, oh, we think that if we use social media, we could promote adolescent well-being. This is a good general news story, an announcement about something that's in the works, but unless it has been implemented, that's what a solution story is. It has to have been implemented to show some evidence of impact and results and evidence, and of course, what its limitations are. So this is not yet a solution story. It is a general news story. This is what a solution story would be. It's something that has already been implemented in Iceland. Iceland, the country, has largely kicked teen drinking. What can it teach other countries? It tells us how the solution worked. What did they do with the kids to get them kick the habit of drinking? And so this is what the solution story is. It's something that is actually implemented. It's showing results, not just an idea. That's not yet a solution story. It's not an afterthought. It's not a whole big article about prisons in the United States with just an afterthought. Oh, by the way, there's a solution working in this community which takes this approach. But the whole story is totally about the problem. So that, again, is a problem story with a touch of solution at the end. So it's not an afterthought. The solution is actually at the heart of the story. That is the center focus of your story. In Finland, they have open prisons, and inmates actually have the keys. So the whole solution is on this, how in Finland, that's the way they do the prisons, it works, and how it works. And what are the insights? Maybe it's not can't be replicated everywhere. Finland is a different society than others in Scandinavia, but there could be lessons learned. So that's a solution story. The solution is at the heart of the story. And definitely it is not advocacy, it is not activism. We don't tell people to click here and donate $5 or something like that, the story on the left. It's not an advertisement. for an initiative with a good purpose. What it is, it just gives people the facts and about the solution and lets them make up their own minds. So you see here on the right how France became a global leader in curbing food waste. It tells us how it did that. And that's a solution story. If you want to donate food, that is up to you. But this is how it works in one supermarket in France. It's not asking you to donate anything. It's not asking you to do anything. It's just telling you how this works. And definitely it's not fluff. This is a nice story with a nice little kitty cat that saved a baby from freezing death. That is just wonderful. It's a heartwarming story. Everybody loves a story like that. But it's not a solutions piece because it doesn't address the big problem of parents leaving their kids, forgetting their young kids in a car. It's a systemic problem. It's a big problem. And one little hero kitty cat, this cannot be replicated. It can't lead to an actual solution to this big problem. So it is not fluff, although we all love fluff as well. A solution story also takes a very different approach. It actually takes turning your mind around because we're so problem focused. It takes me a while to turn my brain around to thinking about the solution. And it also takes different sources because if you are making the solution the heart of your story, you need to talk to different kinds of people. And those are the providers of the solution, the beneficiary from that solution, and somebody who gives you an independent view, somebody who doesn't have any connection to the people who are providing the solution, the people who are receiving the solution. Usually an expert who can put it in perspective and evaluate the evidence, the impact, and the effectiveness. And if they're critics, you have to include those as well. So these are the sources. As I mentioned, it takes turning your brain around. And here I'd like to play a piece by one of my students. And in it, you will see it addresses the problem with drug overdoses and a solution, which is based on providing and supplying Narcan to save lives. It's a very interesting story in which the providers of the solution are also former beneficiaries of that solution. Very interesting. And it's just a very heartwarming story. You'll see how the solution is at the heart of the story. And stories like that actually take somebody's brain kind of thinking in a different way. And let me share with you how that works. For example, if you're looking at statistics about drug overdoses, our initial thinking is to go, where is the problem the biggest? Where are the highest number of people dying from overdose? If you're looking for a solution story, what are you going to look at? How are you going to look at this statistic differently? What you're going to do is you're going to look at it and look and see where in the country are the fewest deaths from drug overdose. That is where you might find your solution story. What are they doing? Why? What are the reasons for this? There might not be a solution. There might be a different reason for that. But there could be a solution at work in that community, which is leading to lower drug overdose deaths. So you see how a solution story, you need to even look at statistics in a different way. You need to interview different kinds of people. Once I show you the story, I want to tell you about the visuals. Even the visuals are different. You have to take a different approach to the visuals for solution storytelling. But let's take a look at my students' work, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a heartwarming story. Let's take a look.
Kickstands are up and engines are hot.
For recovery people who wanna help others with on recovery. Because we know what the misery is like.
Known as the grateful few, these bikers have quite a few to be grateful for, like specifically having the gift of life.
1997, I overdosed on Sumworth fentanyl. I really don't know. The nurse, she said, you flatlined 3 times. We've got to bring you back.
More than 25 years later, John Siders now drives, carrying with him the drug that saved his life.
Somebody will have another chance at life because of what we're doing.
The grateful few rides the Georgia highways year-round, delivering Narcan by the boxes, addressing the increase of opioid-related deaths in the state.
I'm able to do something different, that's not a drain on society, because that's what it used to be.
An opioid overdose can turn fatal in just 6 minutes, but Narcan, given through a nasal spray, reverses the effects and restores breathing. Without Narcan, Shelley Siders could not fight with her husband today.
I'm really grateful that his life was saved by Narcan, because we met in recovery.
As the chief of the group, John Langston packs box after box,
The need is there and it's growing.
growing to 250 boxes delivered this year, riding past last year's total of 200. But the boxes, each containing 2 doses of Narcan, aren't just found on the roads. This box right here sits on the front porch at Reboot Jackson, a recovery community organization here in Jefferson. The Grateful Few Riding Club and Reboot both unite in delivering Narcan, opening up the door, giving people a second chance at life.
We've all rose from the ashes. And this is where we are today.
Today, Langston stands at Reboot Jackson, the RCO he co-founded with one mission.
Making people see that overdose deaths are real and that this will save people's lives.
And making sure Narcan gets into the hands of those who are on the front line.
It should be widely available. It isn't necessarily so. Any effort we can take to keep people safe, healthy, and alive is a good one.
Efforts including expanding access, not just to law enforcement.
We can expand this to licensed professional counselors and social workers, public health practitioners.
Anything to provide a second chance at life.
Does it equal recovery now?
Recovery. It's the reason this group rides clean and free.
And Narcan's not the most important thing to me. What the most important thing to me is the chance that somebody else has to find recovery.
Returning the favor, one box at a time. In Jackson County, Sydney Hood, Grady News Source.
And so now I want to tell you about how a solution story is different visually. Even the visuals that you're going to be collecting are going to be a little bit different because you're focusing on the solution, on a provider, your sources, human sources, a provider, beneficiary, and independent expert and critics, if there are critics. I want to show you one solution that was an important part of the story because you have to present the problem in your story. But your major focus is on the solution. That should be the headline image of your story. And in this particular story, which was about affordable housing for people who live in slums in India, this was the headline image. Think about whether that would make you actually read this story or even suspect that it's about a solution to this. Of course, it belongs in the story. We have to illustrate the problem, but very briefly, that is the afterthought. In a way, the center of the story has to be, and visually has to be, the solution. And there's another thing that you have to think about when you are doing solution stories. Even if it's something about food waste and addressing food waste, does this image actually portray the solution? Okay, it's not portraying the problem, right? It's portraying the solution, sort of. This is this mother, and she's having a great time with her kids shopping in a farmer's, in the market, in the supermarket. Is it really talking about food waste? Is it really telling us something about the solution? This is the photo of an article which is about addressing food waste in Paris, in food markets in Paris. And you actually see the guy from the food bank collecting, and you can see the labels with the expired dates on the food is okay, but it's about to expire. So he's collecting that food, which is still good. It's addressing poverty, it's addressing waste. So that is an image which shows you the solution. This one really doesn't. So here I have summarized them for you. So if you're doing images, like you're doing a digital article with images, remember that your images are not window dressing like this. This would be more like window dressing, but they are showing you the solution. And they are not showing you the problem as a major focus. They are focusing on the solution. They're giving you context. They're not generic, like the supermarket mom image that I showed you. They show the they show the action, showing the response. We see this guy actually doing something, right? Collecting the food. And again, limitations, the problem, these things come later visually. When we're talking about video for a solution story, similarly, you are showing B-roll, you're showing the solution through a person in action, through your B-roll. Also, your B-roll has to have context. Again, not just the mom having a good time and in the supermarket, but actually like the guy who is actually collecting the food. So there's got to be context that speaks about the solution. And think about what you're hearing. So think about what you're showing related to the solution. Think about the context and think about what you're hearing. The gnat sounds, let's say this guy dropping those food containers in that basket or something that really creates the sense and immerses you in what the solution is about. And just to recap the visual solutions, what it needs to have in order to be a solution story. So you've got to have the solution, got to think about the visuals for the solution, got to think about how am I going to demonstrate the evidence. Sometimes if it's heavy data, you might use a stand-up for that, or you might use a graphic because it's hard for people to grasp and it's hard to visualize if it's data and evidence. And think about insights. What do others need to do to replicate it? That might be a strong soundbite from the provider of the solution, who says, oh, I wish that I had done XYZ earlier on. So that's what I wish I had done. So that becomes an insight. And sometimes insights are kind of overlap with limitations also. So limitations are what can they do to take it further and what stood in the way. So these are the things you have to think about visually. And of course, you have to do your research and think about raising those issues in your interviews and researching them and writing about them. Ask how many people did you help? How many classes did you conduct? How many meals did you deliver? What was your experience with X? What makes you think that your participants, the people you helped, the beneficiaries improved? And this is important because sometimes it's hard. You talk to the providers and it's really hard to find the beneficiary. And so you could ask the provider, could you connect me with someone who has been helped by your organization so that you can easily locate people who specifically have been helped so that you can talk to them and find out what their experience was. And that is a big part of the puzzle of how effective the solution is. Insights. What do others need to know to implement this solution? So you can ask things like, So describe your aha moment when you knew, oh, finally, this is working. And then this is an important question. If somebody were to try to replicate this program, what is the one thing that they should make sure works? And that's how you get that insight, so that somebody doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. And then the limitations, that is the trickiest one. I think it's hard. You don't ask people, so what's your problem, right? They'll clam up. You have to be more diplomatic to get to that limitation. You could ask things like, what would you do to take this solution further? What do you see as areas of improvement? What are you planning to do in the future? And who isn't benefiting from the solution? And why do you think they're not benefiting? When you ask about limitations, this is really important, that last point. Usually people will tell you, we need more money. Almost every solution provider needs more money. But you have to go beyond that. You can ask them, so if you were to get that extra funding that you say you need, what would you use it for? What would you need it for? So go further, keep pushing. Don't settle for just the lack of money as a limitation. You might get some interesting responses. So how would it help alleviate the limitations you have? So this is just in a nutshell, solutions journalism. It's about a response to a problem which has evidence that it works. It has an insight for others, or insights for others who might want to replicate it, are interested in it. And it always covers some limitation. Every solution has some kind of limitation, so that gets us to rigorous reporting. And of course, it takes just turning your brain away from our negative bias, from that we're always thinking about the problems, and think about, is there somebody doing something about that? And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't cover the problems. We absolutely have to, but we're not really giving people a realistic, a balanced view of their society, of their community, if we're not also covering the solutions. So in my students' show, I always have one solution story in addition to all the rest. So I hope you enjoyed this Solutions Journalism 101, and that it inspires you to try your own hand at this kind of reporting. You can always reach out to us, Solutions Hub of the South, if you have any questions. And we are really delighted that you're interested in this form of journalism. I'm Ralitsa Vassileva with the Solutions Journalism Hub of the South, and I wish you all the very best in your reporting. Thank you.